Well, hello, Roger. So
Hello.
exciting to be with you.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, likewise. So for the audience, I just introduced the wonderful Roger Aldridge. I came across your work through the platform Facebook, and um, and then we just started chatting, and I started reading your blog, and it's just so much information from the star beings. I felt it's really important for people to meet you and expand the visibility of what is possible just through energy work. So
Yes.
thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting this
Oh, of course,
conversation
my
today.
pleasure. Well, now, one thing I would like to say, you use the word information, and that's not wrong. But one of the things that how should I put this? One of the things that I've sensed about the particular kind of energy work that I'm doing myself, and then also in collaboration with Michael Perfetto, is that it's quite different from how we think of getting information through channels. Um, how to describe this simply? For me, channeling is going outside of oneself to connect with like with a being, and then information coming down that's then usually transcribed in one way or another and then shared with others. And there are some particular channels, in particular Daniel Scranton, who I admire very much and have been helpful uh, to me for a number of years. But in the entries that I write in my blogs, these are direct personal experiences. I'm not necessarily connecting with a particular energy and getting information. Rather, it's experiences. And more often than not, uh, when these experiences happen, I see myself with a team. And I think that's a very, a very important thing to keep in mind, that, actually we, all of us, each of us, is part of an extended team um, that that is helping us here, in this physical work that we're having on Earth, as well as experiences that we may or may not remember elsewhere. Many of us have these kinds of experiences during dream states.
Mm.
And again, we may or may not remember them. Many of the blog entries that I wrote down about my dreams, these are ones that I were able to remember. But I also know that I have dreams that I don't wake up and remember.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you for speaking about that. I feel the same way that, yes, so much is said about channeling, and this was maybe one way or one device to be in the past. And yet now it feels it's very much a collaboration and a co-creation. As you say, you are part of, they are part of. There is a teamwork, so there is no them and you. It's an experience that it's happening at the same time. Is that how
Yeah,
um
I think that's a good way to put it. Uh-huh. Um, a big part of this also, for many years, I've been saying how a big part of everything that we're going through is rooted in the importance of us remembering who and what we are.
yes.
Like that is that we're more than our physical body, we're more than our personality, we're more than someone living a single life on this one planet. Excuse me. I mean, there's so much more to us. And as we're able to tap into that, that can be, I really think of it as being a game changer. This can be a way that we can find commonality. And there's so much division, so much fragmentation, so much fear, anger. And somehow we have to get beyond that. We have to be able to find ways to work together. And as I see it, this working together, this cooperation, this collaboration, these are going to be qualities of a new social model that we're evolving to.
That is wonderful that you're mentioning that, because I see that in your chart as well. I see that this is partly what you're doing. This is partly your reason for being here, is to bring new ways. And yeah, a lot of wisdom that you bring. You are determined to bring. Yeah, I would call it intelligence, but it's what you're saying. You know, our ability to be an evolved culture in this timeline is still possible.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you.
A vision that came to me several years ago. And you might have noticed that in my blog entries, some of them are extremely short and simple, like maybe even one sentence. And like others are more more involved. But one of the one sentence mission, see if I can say this, the one sentence message that came to me is humanity's future is being an interstellar people. And this is definitely where we're heading. And a big part of this, of course, it goes back to remembering who and what we are. And it's so common these days to think of us, humans, and then star beings. I prefer to use that term rather than ETs. Think of humans and star beings as us and them. Whenever I see a TV show about UFOs and that kind of thing, it's always us and them.
Mm-hmm.
And often there's an aspect of fear. There's aspects of the unknown. However, going back to this core message, if you will, of remembering who and what we are star beings. Many of us, it's safe to say all of us, one way or another, have lives in our life continuum where we've lived in higher planes. Even the concept of heaven, that's a higher dimension, a higher plane. Many of us, as you know perfectly well, with the work that you're doing, many of us have lived in various star systems, various dimensions, various galaxies. And so that's who we are. We're interstellar, interdimensional beings. And each of us chose to come here to have a life, a human life on this planet at this time to do particular kinds of work. So as I see it, this realization of who and what we are, that can be a point of commonality that could bring people that are, on completely opposite political sides, as an example, somehow we need to find commonality. And so our transcending our artificial social identity, like, white male, white female, different races, different nationalities, different political affiliations. All of those are artificial social constructs. So somehow as a people, we need to get beyond that and learn to work together. And I can't help but think if it's possible to change our consciousness, change our sense of self-identity to a higher level that we have in common with others, then that could be what we need in this world right now.
That is so true. That is so true. As you know, one of the things that I've been holding for quite some time is this meeting in the field of consciousness. And we've been doing this now for 3 minutes every day for a really long time. And it's a group of us that meets from all over the world every day for 3 minutes. And there is no intention other to rise from the frequency of thought. So to rise from the frequency of what this 3D is doing, and then allowing, yes, the connection with the self, understanding the frequency of the self so that we can magnetize the others. Because as you say, it is about us coming together now beyond the rights and wrongs, beyond what we think we know, and beyond what we think is separating us. Because as you say so rightly, it is a construct, and it's not even ours. We haven't even created that. Absolutely. So yes, thank you for that.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned that, excuse me, you had mentioned that you had written a mini chart.
Yes.
About me. What I was going to say before we press the record button is that I had a dream last night of someone was showing me a chart, but it was very, very big. It looked like it was extremely complex, and I'm not completely sure whether it was connections within my life continuum or connections within the star community. That wasn't clear to me. But when I saw that dream, I thought, well, okay, I think I know where we're going with this today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love the synchronicity. I also had a dream years ago. I want to say maybe 4 years ago. I had a dream. I was in Sedona, and I had a dream where my crew was showing me what would be my work in the future, and it looked like a structure. It looked like a multi-dimensional structure where I could look inside, and all of these alignments. They were like, it looks a bit like the star chart. The natal chart when I put all of the alignments together, but it would look like a sphere, and really it's more than a sphere. Sorry, it's a sacred geometry structure. And then that they were telling me that was going to heal somehow. I don't know how that will come about, but it would heal the lineages and the timelines. I guess it's because people would realize who they are and would then access to all of that potential that is in this sacred geometry structure. Yeah, but obviously I'm not there to show you that yet. But it's a potential, because I saw that in a dream. So it's interesting that you saw something large as well.
Yeah. Sounds rather like a hologram.
Yeah, sometimes I think that, maybe technology is coming that will be able to create this. I hope it's in my lifetime. It would be nice to see it.
This is very interesting. Let's see, this was probably 2017, after I'd begun to work with Michael Perfetto, and he told me about Robert Monroe and hemisync sound technologies, that for several months I used a CD recording with headphones that had the hemisync. Well, I'm trying to think how Robert Monroe describes this as like bi-audial sound. It's like there's two frequencies that are just a little bit out from one
It's
another.
binaural.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit out. Somewhere I read 8 megahertz. And what it does is to create an undertone that then helps to bring the two hemispheres of the brain into sync, if you will, or balance. And so like I used that recording, here at home a number of times, and had some truly wonderful experiences. And one of them was this relates to your vision or your experience, that in this hemisync experience, I was seeing a hologram of the Mayan Chol. And this is something I've been following for, well, at least 20 years. But I think of it, I've experienced it as something more than a linear calendar, or even like a circular calendar of 260 days. I've been having visions of seeing it as expressing the fabric of time and space. And one can connect, like all of these energies, all of these intelligences that are represented by the 13 numbers and 20 day signs of the Chol. All of that, as I saw it in the vision, all of that is occurring simultaneously in space-time. Outside of space-time, that's another story, but this is within space-time. And so I can connect myself energetically with any of those 260 combinations of energies and intelligences, anytime I want. But I follow the traditional cycle used by the Quiche Maya. It feels that it's important for me to do that. But in this hemisync experience, I was seeing these 260 combinations as a multi-dimensional. Well, I guess I have to use the word structure, but that's, when I say that word, I know that it's not entirely accurate. But I was seeing it that way, being multi-dimensional layout. So it kind of reminded me what you were saying with your vision of perhaps a hologram kind of structure.
Well, I look forward for that to come into being, into our reality soon. But I have to tell you that as you're saying this, one of the very, very strong connections to your soul is the constellation Auriga and the star Capella.
Oh, okay.
And Capella is very, very close to your Uranus, which is the future, is the higher mind, it's the fine intelligence for the age of Aquarius, is the one that is bringing the future forward. And Capella is connected to the ancient ones that were the Mayans, that were even older than the Mayans. I did a little bit of study on the pre-Columbian artifacts. And yeah. I don't know if you ever had a look at that, but so it's Central American, it's Maya, and it's all of that ancient wisdom from pre-flood. and you're bringing that with you, and obviously resonating, and you're able to align to it through the frequency of this connection to Capella. And it's a very close connection, and so they're known as the Nakals, and translates as the brothers.
That's very cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, it's wonderful to be able to share this with you. Shall I share a little bit more with you as
let me share one experience that I think connects very well with exactly what you said. This was probably 2001, and I was one of my spiritual teachers in Mexico came up to New York. And so I took the train up there to see him because it had been a bunch of years, since. And, there was a group of friends and brothers and sisters up there. So two of my probably oldest and dearest spiritual friends that live in upstate New York, they came down with a friend of theirs from their town. And I had not met her before, but they told me that she does psychic or intuitive readings. So like at one point we started talking, and I was starting to share with her, at that time it was a developing interest in the Cholkeen. I think it was just fairly recently at that time that I started learning something about it. But then I think that was before I developed a connection with the Mayan elder Rigoberto Itzep, who lives in Guatemala, and I've received like many teachings from him. So at that point in time in 2001, my understanding of the Cholkeen was quite rudimentary. So we were talking, and all of a sudden I noticed that something happened with her physically. It's like she had this shiver, and she told me that this happens to her when a download of information comes to her, and she has an inner knowing that this is true. And so what she told me is, in very ancient times, and she didn't have a time frame for this, but she just said in ancient times, I was part of a team that came from the Pleiades to Mesoamerica. And each of us on this team had particular talents or abilities, particular expertise, that's the word that I was looking for, to share with the people in that region. And that similar things were happening in other parts of the world. But the particular team that I was with came to Mesoamerica. And when I first went to Mexico in 1974 and went to Teotihuacan, wow, it just felt like it, first of all, blew my mind. And then secondly, it felt that it planted all of these seeds within me that would grow over the years. So I do feel a very deep and ancient connection with Mesoamerica.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I love what you're sharing as seeds that would grow over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We sometimes want immediate results, don't we? Or we want to know immediately what happened in that moment, and it's years later that recognition arrives and awareness kind of taps us on the shoulders, like, oh, do you remember that? Well, that's what that was about.
It's safe to say that we've been doing this work for years and years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you for that story too. And so another major connection for you, still through Uranus, which is an outer planet. So that represents um, a long time ago. So it's coming into being to
What was
Earth.
the name of the planet?
I'm going to talk about Orion now.
Oh,
You
okay.
you have strong connections to Rigel and to you have three connections to Rigel and one very strong connection to Alnilam. And so Alnilam is one of the stars in the Orion's belt.
Mhm.
And although Orion is a hot zone, for interference and manipulation and service to self beings, there always was a very ancient culture, a race of humanoid, highly evolved, benevolent beings. And they are in Al Nilam. And so they are also part of your family, part of your deep frequency that you bring to Earth. Like you bring deep knowledge of highly evolved ways of being, and they are working to assist in this evolutionary phase, not only Earth but all of humans throughout the galaxy, because the Orion zone it's, as I said, a zone where reptilian service to self reptilians are operating from. So they are the bright ones, and you also have connections to Arcturus.
That's not a surprise.
Yes, you have connection to Arcturus through Jupiter and through Mars, and then also through Chiron. And Chiron is let me look at your chart now. 1 minute. Yeah, Chiron is conjunct to Arcturus. And then you have a whole lot of trines with your Uranus to Rigel. So this is such a cooperation of different star elders assisting your work, and you were part of this bringing the peace agreements forward by working with the Arcturians, very highly evolved. They are the highest frequency beings in our galaxy, and are working through healing emotions, but healing like the family trauma, so that we don't replay what we might have known as karma, so that ends and we can begin a new Earth without it. So and you've got this amazing also connection, your alignment with Chiron, which in astrology is known as the wounded healer. But to me, when I look at a multidimensional reality astrology through the soul, I feel that is the eyes of the shaman. So the ability to see all that is, the difficulties, and then navigating through it and bringing the truth forward, and like literally blowing that into being, breathing it into being through the vision. And for you're bringing the vision of the healing frequencies of Arcturus with Mars. So Mars is such a power planet. When you have a conjunction to Mars with Chiron, this is such a determination to bring this healing through to complete your mission.
Wowza. Thank you. I'm curious, did you pick up on anything with the Pleiades?
There are, let me look at, bear with me a minute. So I didn't, oh, sorry, it's a fly. I didn't work, I usually have to put a lot of hours in preparing
Yes.
a report. So bear with me a minute. I can see Mercury. So Mercury is your planet of, you know, the messenger, and for you, you have Mercury and the Sun in the second house. So much of what you came here to do is to bring this message. This message of collaboration and co-creation for the future. And it is really your whole reason for being.
Yeah.
Also through Rigel is connected. The Sun and Mercury are also connected to Rigel, as well as Jupiter. So really bringing this awareness and expansion and the desire, as you were sharing earlier, that we are not separate, and it is a collaboration and a co-creation.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
So for the Pleiades, there is a very positive energy, which is known in astrology as a trine.
Oh, yes.
And it's particularly to Alcyon.
Okay.
There's Maya at 1°06'. There's a close connection to Mercury, the messenger. And Alcyon is 1°26'. Also very close connection. Your soul desiring to fulfill this this mission, to bring this knowledge, this wisdom through.
Yeah. I can relate to absolutely everything you've said. Rigel, let's just say Orion. I've had little glimmers about that. It's clear to me, let me see here. It's become clear to me that I'm working in a particular lane, to use that expression. And by working in this lane, I'm able to connect with and focus and then ground particular kinds of higher energies. And I know that there's, an unbelievably vast amounts of other things contained within my higher self, that are kind of, how should I put this, beyond my job description, for want of a better expression. It's clear to me that I've worked with teams forever, in many places, many star systems, many planets, many dimensions, even many galaxies. And there's nothing special about me in this. We've all had higher dimensional experiences, in many places. So for me, connections with Orion, it's kind of like, of course, I know it's there. But the focus that I've been having is, I feel that my deepest connection in the Pleiades is the Electra system. But I also feel a connection with the other star system that you mentioned. In fact, when I talked about the team from the Pleiades, that went to Mesoamerica, the other day I was curious about that and did a pendulum reading, to try to dig down a little bit more. And apparently we went from that star system. How's it pronounced? Alisoni? Alisoni, is that how you pronounce that star? One of the central stars in the Pleiades?
Taygeta.
Maybe if you can say that word again.
Oh, Alcyon.
Alcyon, yes. Yeah, so I got that the project team came from that star system when we came to Mesoamerica. So yes, I do definitely have a connection with it. But in terms of...
That's a good piece of history that I don't know.
Yeah.
Good piece of galactic history that I don't know.
But yes, in terms of my work right now, I'm feeling the strongest connection with the Electra system. And I think it was maybe last year during a Medical Qi Gong session with Michael Perfetto, in the midst of the energy work that he was doing, he said, "Oh, I have a message for you." He said, "Cousin Anne is home." And, I said to Michael, that doesn't make sense to me. And so we, and then he said, well, maybe I'm not saying it right. So we kind of worked with this a little bit more. We figured out that the word wasn't cousin Anne, rather it was Kazanan.
Oh.
So the message was Kazanan is home. And then when I got home, I did several pendulum readings, as clarifiers. And what I got is Kazanan is the 4th planet in the Electra system. So that was the message. Kazanan is home.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can take a look at the astrological, so the zodiac degree of where I can find it in your chart, and I'll let you know.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I don't know, but I can research it. That would be just so fun to how amazing.
But I know, saying again, I know that I've had many other homes. But, for the focus that I have right now, it seems like, kind of zeroing in on the Electra system. At one point, I don't think this was a dream. I think this was, again, an experience in a session with Michael. I saw myself with a star council, and what I was understanding was that an important part of my work is to connect with, I guess I would use the word Kazinian frequencies, and as best as I can, hold them in my state of being, and then ground them with Earth. And since then, there's a energy practice that I do every morning that connects with different energetic levels of myself, such as I start with connecting with my higher self. I then connect with my team of guides and helpers. And when I do that, I usually have an image of them waving at me. Then connecting with my star family and friends, and then connecting with the Electra system and planet Kazanan, then connecting with councils and star fleets, and then finally connecting with the Star Nations community. And I see that as a vast web of connections. And then I feel these six distinct levels, as kind of like a complex harmonic structure in music, because I'm feeling all six simultaneously. And then I just kind of keep myself open to that for a few moments, and then I feel it grounding into the earth. So I wanted to share that because the connections with the star nations, the number of systems or the number of planets, I mean, who knows how many? I mean, it's just a vast magnitude of connections. And I just wanted to mention that because within my life continuum, I feel that I've been out there in so many places. And again, it feels like the current work is just kind of like a little bit of a subset of this, much more vast connection. But I also feel a very strong connection with Arcturus and Mars. So I wanted to take just a brief moment just to talk about that, because when you talked about Arcturus and Mars, all kinds of lights went on. A couple of years ago, in a session with Michael, usually when we're doing medical Qi Gong, things happen with both of us in terms of like visions or messages, images. And then Michael and I share with each other what happened. Often visions come to Michael of star beings helping him in the energy work. I usually feel an expanded team of guides and helpers with us. And sometimes I also see one or more star beings helping us. More often than not, they're Palladians, but I've also seen like a mantis being helping us. But the story that I wanted to share about this is that in this one session, Michael had a vision of some kind of a structure. And at first he thought it looked like an old European cathedral. But I started getting a vision of it, and I said, no, it's not a cathedral. It's on another planet. And I saw it being kind of tall and slender. And then standing in front of this structure, Michael saw 3 star beings. And I had a sense that they were Arcturians. And since then, I've had a number of dreams and session experiences of being inside that structure. And I describe it as a place of highly refined energies. And in one experience I had inside the structure, I saw myself, it was like a web of connections coming to my energy field. And there was a message that said increased sensitivity. And then in another session that was very similar to this, I heard the word, like with these, with this web of connections, there was a message that said, these are the star nations. There's also visions of being inside that structure and seeing a council. And it was at some point last year, I put the dots together. And I realized that the 3 Arcturians that Michael and I had been seeing, and like we've continued to see them in a number of experiences, that they are part of the Arcturian Council that sends transmissions to Daniel Scranton. That was pretty cool when I realized that. Because when I read his, the messages that he receives, more often than not, it feels like they are spot on. And there's often the experience of having something happening to me in a dream or experience, or an understanding that comes to me. And then a day or two later, I'll read about this very thing in one of Daniel's messages. But yeah, there's definitely a connection with Arcturus. Now with Mars, wowza. We've had a number of experiences with Mars. It kind of crept up on me. Going back through my blog entries, I saw how several years ago something came to me about Mars, but it didn't really jump out at me, but there was one experience. Michael and I had just started the Medical Qi Gong session. He started the energy work, and suddenly there was a vision of me being on Mars. And as often happens in these experiences, there's no traveling. I'm just immediately there. And I cannot exactly explain that, but I never have a sense of traveling to go anywhere. It's just bing, there I am. And so I was seeing the current landscape on Mars, that we've seen pictures of, from NASA. But there was an immediate understanding that intelligent life is on Mars, but it's in a higher frequency. Thus, the Mars rovers aren't going to see that. They need to somehow go higher into the electromagnetic spectrum to be able to see what's happening there. But yes, there was a very definite sense that yes, there is intelligent life in a higher frequency. And then in that same vision, I saw myself walking down a very long tunnel or corridor. And there was an understanding that I was going into an underground complex. There's been other experiences with Mars. And one of the more recent ones, I can't remember exactly what the experience was, but I somehow began to get an understanding that in very remote, distant times, that I was part of Star Nation's teams, several teams that had been working on Mars in some capacity. And that also over time, I was involved with other kinds of Star Nations projects with that planet. And of course, all of this is part of being, with a team or teams. So I definitely feel a connection with Mars. I'm not certain if I've had an incarnation there or just worked on projects for that planet. But sometimes when Michael is doing the energy work, through my major organ systems, and he comes to my heart, often visions come to him. And like he's had a vision of a planet in my heart, and I knew that it was Kazanan. Mm. And there's also visions of Mars. And again, so like when you mentioned both Arcturus and Mars, it just jumped out at me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. There is a lot of I guess, informers, like, I don't know if you know Michael Salla. He's a very well respected, he's a doctor, Michael Salla, a well respected researcher. And he has been speaking, and also a friend, Elena Danan, which is quite famous now in the disclosure movement. They've been speaking about the bases, the underground bases in Mars, and that that is where all of the manipulation of DNA, so the abductions were happening in the bases. So the bases were being run by service to self regressive beings, and that now it has been liberated, that the Andromedans are one of them, and the Pleiadians. So they speak of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and I know that people call it different things, and you have, I feel that all that you're describing is this collective of benevolent races that are working together for evolution of this cycle, not only on Earth but the whole of our galaxy.
Right.
And you're mentioning the underground tunnels, and certainly you also have connections to Andromeda. You have very strong connections to a star called Mirak. So that would certainly be, I mean, the way I hear it when you're saying it, that this could potentially very much be a mission, that you were in mission to assist to liberate, free the captives and liberate Mars and return Mars. Apparently, Mars has now been returned to the original Martians, the original people of Mars. So I don't know if you followed that story, but certainly the people I mentioned and Dr. Michael Salla has a lot of information on that.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. In the experiences that I have, I'm not receiving that kind of information. It's just purely connecting and then having the direct personal experiences. So I can't speak to that. I do know that there's a remarkable history of Mars that hopefully in not too many years, the general population of Earth will come to know about. And there's this sense that it'll be of great benefit to us. Whatever's happening on Mars is going to be of great benefit to us.
Oh, that's so good to know. That's so good to know.
Yeah. It is a curious thing because just the other day I was speaking and I was saying that I know that there are civilizations in the stars that are benevolent, and there's also ones that are malevolent. I do know that. The experiences that I'm having are purely with the benevolent. I'm not having any experiences whatsoever with dark stuff.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I am the same. I have only experienced the benevolent ones. Yeah.
And you'd mentioned reptilians close to the beginning of our talk, and the same thing applies to them. There are different kinds of reptilians. I prefer to use the word reptoid.
Okay.
Maybe it has a little bit less baggage. I don't know. But I discovered in 2017, working with Michael, that my primary guide is a female reptoid. And my goodness, a very, I describe her in my blogs as being a deep well of wisdom with powerful healing abilities and a wonderful sense of humor.
Huh.
So yeah, there are reptoid, there are civilizations of reptoids that are service to others.
There is a lot that is coming through to me through clients about the Draco, because also the Draco have a bad rap now because of the negative reptiloids.
Yeah.
But the original ones from Draco would have been are benevolent, and a lot of my clients are speaking about dragon-like beings. So they're
Yes. Yeah. Several friends have been speaking about the same thing.
Huh.
And, of course, I immediately think of Mesoamerica and Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan and the feathered serpent.
Yes.
And I had an experience. In fact, I was sharing this experience with a friend just recently because she was talking about sky dragons. And I think it might have happened in maybe summer of either 2019 or 2020. And we do like a summer vacation to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. And we rent, we typically rent the same beach house, year after year. And so this particular summer, ever which year it was, I remember going out on the deck overlooking the ocean, and the sky, I remember the sky being clear, and the Milky Way, was just fantastic. So I relaxed my eyes and I began to see something that looked like green moss in the sky. And I began to see movement in it. And I began to see snakes, just like moving around like. Then it began to change, and I began to see the snakes as sky serpents, and it expanded, and I saw the sky filled with sky serpents. And for a moment, I felt fear, feeling this immense power. But then I centered myself, and then everything was fine. And as I looked at the ocean and then this sky serpents, I realized that this must be an energetic experience of the feathered serpent.
Huh. And do you have a sense of where they're from?
No idea. So like there they were.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But dragons, yes, I feel an affinity to dragons also. And I talked about the star connections that I have with Mesoamerica. I have a similar one with China, but it's actually the Star Nations team that I was with at that time, and that was older, much older than the one that went to Mesoamerica. It actually went to a civilization in what is now the Gobi. And I had a dream about this team several years ago, and I saw the team members wearing what appeared to be brightly colored Chinese robes that had dragon emblems.
Huh.
Yeah. And that might be why I feel such an affinity with traditional Chinese medicine.
There must be another very strong connection there that I haven't quite seen, because as I said, it did take me a while to connect all the dots. But
Yeah.
if you don't mind, do you want to just share a little bit about the energy work through Qigong? And is it acupuncture as well? Like you're opening up memory pathways and
Yeah.
really important to know.
I
Because I
had,
think there's so many people that feel that they don't connect or they don't know how to connect. It might just be a
yeah,
way of, opening an energy line.
right. Yeah. I'm really glad that you said that just now. Because I've told other people, I don't think of myself as a teacher. I mean, I'm not doing podcasts. I'm not
You're so beautiful
doing
and
workshops.
humble. Thank you. Thank you for being so humble. You're so wise.
Well, I mean, this is the truth. I mean, I don't know how to tell others how I'm having these connections. It's rather like how I described when I see myself being out and like being in deep space or being on another planet or being inside that structure on in the Arcturus system. There's this similar kind of structure in the Electra system, but I see it as a golden pyramid. So when I'm at those places, there's no traveling. I cannot logically explain how I'm there. In a similar way, I'm just using that as an example because in a similar way, I cannot explain how I'm having the experiences that I'm having. But I know that I've been working on this a long time. There's like I've done several styles of meditation for a long time. Before I started practicing Qigong, I practiced yoga for a bunch of years. I know that I felt a connection with the stars that I couldn't explain since childhood. There's various ancient civilizations on Earth that I feel connections with. But it really began to pop out and there'd be more clarity maybe for the past 20 years. And so I began to have acupuncture actually with another person, um, maybe 10 years or longer. Her name was Robin Johnson. And Robin was truly an amazing person. She was a family friend. And then both my wife Nancy and I had acupuncture with her. Robin felt similar connections with the stars. And when I began to get more of a sense about the Pleiades, I mentioned that to Robin and she said, "What star system?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I didn't know at the time." Later on, I got a little more clarity. But Robin was very deep and helpful to me. And it was through Robin, under circumstances that I wish could have been different because cancer had returned to her. She had cancer earlier in her life and got through it, but when it came back, really nothing could be done for it, even though she was getting really exceptional medical care. But when she got to the point of not being able to continue to work with her clients, she thought about each person and thought of a particular acupuncturist for that person. So for me, she recommended Michael Perfetto. So that's how it happened. I'd never heard of Michael, but when I talked with him on the phone and told him that Robin had sent me, it was just like, okay, here's this connection. And I discovered that he's also a composer, and he also went, we went to the same music school. So that's a pretty solid connection. But I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory here, because I started with Michael doing acupuncture and also Chinese herbs. Michael had also, when I, as I shared dream experiences with him, he began to tell me about Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute. He had gone to some workshops there, or had some training there. And so the combination of acupuncture and I think some of the concepts that I was reading about Robert Monroe, that just really seemed to open things up. And when I went, when I started writing my blogs and was collecting these experiences starting, the beginning of 2017 with, when I started with Michael, a couple things became clear to me. One is that the dreams, some of them would be short message dreams, and I knew there was an intent for me to share it with others. And other dreams were out of body. And in those dreams, I was always with a team. And then another thing became clear is that literally from the beginning of our work together with Michael, we were making connections with star beings and having off-planet journeys. But yes, all kinds of things was happening with acupuncture. I remember in one of my sessions with Michael, this was an early one, he told me the treatment would be about experiencing original self. It's also called original nature. He said sometimes people receiving this treatment could have experiences of difficult situations in their lives. It might start to come out of them. After Michael put in all of the needles and then left the room, I was out of body. And I knew that, we were, I was beyond this planet. And the thing that I noticed, it was not a shock. It felt like I was entirely home. So like things like that were happening with acupuncture. So we were working, it became clear to me that in this work with Michael, we were working on multiple levels simultaneously. He's working on the physical body, he's working on the energetic systems, and then we're also in higher frequency ranges. And then after 16 months, Michael unexpectedly told me that he had been receiving this training in Medical Qi Gong. And I got really excited because I had read about it, but I didn't know how I would ever be able to experience it without going to China. So Michael said that his school, where he was studying Medical Qi Gong, told him that he could begin to do clinicals free of charge, because he wasn't certified at that point. He is now, but he wasn't at that point, so he really couldn't charge for it. So I started doing the Medical Qi Gong sessions with him, and it just blew open all these doors. It's kind of like the work that we were doing with some of the Robert Monroe stuff, and then the acupuncture stuff was just the foundation for the much higher level work that we were doing in Medical Qi Gong. So specifically what medical Qi Gong is, it's very much like acupuncture. It uses acupuncture as a foundation. And I think it's safe to say that people that have been trained in medical Qi Gong have previously been trained in acupuncture. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it would seem logical to me. So Michael does work with applying energies directly, through the hands. There's a little bit of touching, but not that much. Like there's one movement, I think, for the lung meridian where, like he would take his hand and then, go up like this through the body. And then it's like he's kind of like casting away, lower level energies. But he goes through all of the major organ systems as one would do in acupuncture. Well, what we found is that, as we were progressively working with higher and more refined energies, all this stuff was happening. All of these visions were opening. The very first medical Qigong session I had with Michael, here I am on the acupuncture table and he's starting to do the energy work. I have this sense of a starcraft directly over the building.
Wow.
And that was just our first session with medical Qigong.
Amazing.
So yeah, and then I also started feeling a lot more connections with my team of guides. That at first I was just aware of my primary guide, the female reptoid being. But as I worked with Michael, my sense of what the team was began to expand. Like we went from 1 to 3. And then as we continued having sessions, it continued to expand. And then for a chunk of time, it felt like I had a core group of 9. And these were star beings from different systems. The ones that I know what to call, because there's ones I have no idea what to call them. But the ones that I do know what to call, there was the one reptoid, there's a mantis, there's a couple Palladians, there's a Arcturian. But the others, I don't know what they are. One of them is a very tall, light blue star being. Feels very feminine. I would describe it as very flowing features. There's also various helpers, like a few months ago, Michael had a vision of 2 mantis beings, and he saw them looking through a window. And I had a very profound experience with them, and I realized that they are collaborating with the mantis who's on my team of guides. And I've had other visions of more like energy beings, that are helping. I saw these beings several years ago, and I could just describe them as like diamond light beings. That's how I saw them. But again, there's other beings that I know that are helping, but I have no idea what to call them. I have no idea what they're from. My guides don't give information as such. So if someone is going to ask me, okay, what star system is your female reptoid? And I'm going, I don't know. None of them give me names for them. What I get is that all of that stuff, like regarding information, place of origin or whatever, it's not important. what is important is making the energy connection with them, and
Mhm.
then doing the work here that I need to do.
That's beautiful. Because I even wrote this down. One of the things that I wrote is that you're connecting higher frequencies, and then grounding it to earth. So
Yeah.
obviously on some level you know all of that, but you don't need to know it in this level because you are
Yeah.
bringing it to earth.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah. That feels.
feel
I'm sorry.
you're physically resonating it on earth. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here and doing what you do, and being such a humble soul, in service. Thank you.
Well,
I see it. Thank you.
well, thank you too.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful to talk to you, and the stories are amazing, and I'd love to hear more, but I think we should stop this video because
Yeah, I think so
we
too.
cannot leave it too long.
Yeah.
But yes, I look forward to more connecting with you. And yes, thank you for explaining also the energy work and the medical Qigong in case people are interested in following that.
Mhm.
And
My blogs, there's a lot of I have quite a few links in my blogs, like links to Michael, links to Robert Monroe,
yeah,
links to the um, International School or College of Qigong, whatever, Medical Qigong, whatever its name is. But I have a link to that, so people
okay.
can learn more about the different kinds of Qigong, because there are um, different kinds. And so then they can read specifically about medical Qigong and,
Yes.
all
And
that. So there's links to all of these things.
yes, and I will add all of the details at the end of the video. But
Okay.
so that everybody knows, your why did I write it? Your website is rogeraldridge.com, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
I will add all of the details. Thank you so much. This was
Okay.
such a
Um,
wonderful time together. I am truly honored to have had your presence and to
well,
be sharing this.
the honor goes both ways.
Much love, Roger. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye bye for now.